Hey, what's up, everybody? Nathan from Method Music here. So, today I wanted to take you through a little bit of my process, basically summarize what I do to take a song from the demo stages through to final production when I'm working with an artist on a tune. And this process basically applies to almost everybody that I work with. And it can be either a local artist or an online artist. It's pretty much the same thing whether I'm working remotely with somebody or right with somebody in the studio. The process it varies a little bit in the way that we communicate, but it's pretty much the same thing. So it all starts with the demo and the overall vision for the project. This is really, really important. I need to be able to hear a demo and make sure, I hear it and be like, yeah, totally. I can definitely see where we want to take that. If I can't see that, if I can't hear that, then we have a problem, right? Like, literally, my job is to help the artist take their song and make it into the best version of the song that it can't be, right? And so if I can't hear that, then I can't work on the song. Like, I won't just, yeah, sure, I can hear it and we'll just make a song. It's like, no, I have to be able to hear exactly where the song needs to go. And the artist also has to agree with that as well. We have to agree on, the overall direction of the song and to make sure it's going to be, the right direction. So that's really important. Ironing that out is huge. So that all starts with a basic even voice memo on a phone, like somebody just, recording on their phone and they got an acoustic guitar and they just sing the song. I've totally worked on a number of projects from that. And as long as I can, again, hear the vision out of that, then we're good. We're good to go. So once we have that down and all that out of the way, then what I'd like to do is to actually demo the song right into Pro Tools, to have the arrangement set out right in Pro Tools so that I can just start basically piecing in all the pieces over top of that I need to. So in this particular song, it was a local artist, and I was able to actually bring them into the studio and have them actually track out the demo to a click track right in Pro Tools, the arrangement that we had agreed upon, basically. Now, if it's an online client, sometimes they can do it themselves. They have their own recording set up. If not, I can also do it. I will just roughly, just the basic chord structure and the basic melody is really all we're looking for, right? So once that's down, then we have the basics that we can start filling in. So this is kind of what this sounds like anyways. This is just really basic, one microphone in a room, just recording acoustic guitar and a vocal, right? So that's where it all starts. That allows me to have a good understanding of where each part of the song is visually, and it allows me to have something that I can play along to, basically. Because after we have that down, then we have to start adding the actual instruments in, right? So for me, usually when I work, it starts with the drums. That's like number one. We have to get the rhythm down, because the whole song revolves around the rhythm and the dynamic of what the drums can bring. So this tune particularly this is like pretty much all organic instruments. It's like a pop song, pop kind of folky stuff. But it applies to the same thing in other genres. Like if I'm working on a more electronic pop song, then it's the same kind of thing. Once we have the chords down, the chords don't matter really what instrument they are. It's more just getting them down so that I can add the rhythm in to add the dynamic. That's the first thing, to get the rhythm down. So I'll just start playing the song and I'll kind of go through some of the parts that. So again, the drums, right? That's what it starts with. So I was lucky enough to play drums on this tune, actually. I love it when I get to play drums on tunes in the studio. So once I have the drums down, then it was time to add in bass. That's kind of the next thing, the bass and the drums, they're best friends, right? So they have to line up. And for someone like myself, I do play bass as well. I didn't play bass on this tune, but I do play guitar and bass, so I have a good understanding of what, when I'm playing drums, I know what the bass is kind of gonna do, right? I'm keeping that in my mind while I'm figuring out my drum part for the song, right? So that's pretty important. Like, that's why the musicians that you bring into the studio they have to kind of all understand that, right? They have to know how to work together with all the instruments. So, and the bass and the drums, they lay down the foundation for the whole song, right? The bass usually handles a lot of the root notes for all the chords, and it's just a solid foundation to build the song around. So once I had that, then we move on to adding guitars. So filling it out a little bit with some of the mid-range instruments, right? So in this case, the guitars are adding a little bit of this kind of flowy groove. And again, this is why it also depends, like, the players that you bring in, right? Like, I just let the guitar player kind of do what he felt like with this chord structure. And as soon as he started playing something, I was just like, yeah, that's what I want. I could hear it immediately. It was like, yeah, man, that's exactly what I want to hear. So once you get that, then the song all of a sudden starts to take shape, basically. We can start adding in the rest of the elements, the vocals being the most important. So I like to get the foundation there first, just, the basic chord structure and the basic rhythm stuff. So drums, guitar, bass, that kind of thing. Maybe if it's a pop song, like a little more electronic, it's the synth-based stuff. It's maybe some basic piano chords, some electronic drums. Whatever the foundation of the song is, that needs to be there first. Then I like to go in and track the actual vocals based on the demo that we had laid out, right? Now, sometimes things change a little bit, like with the vocals and stuff like that. They can differ from the demo because you have to always allow for creativity in the studio. And because ideas they happen, right? They just happen when you're in the studio and you're messing around with stuff. You always have to be prepared for change. That's why it is important to get the vocals down after just the basic arrangement, because if something happens with the vocals, something changes in the vocals, I don't want anything else to get in the way of the vocals. So I don't want any other the fancy stuff, any like guitar leads or like maybe some fancy other lead stuff or some pads or anything like that. Any other sparkly instruments that might get around or might get in the way of the vocal. I don't want that. So we get the vocal down first, the final vocal track down first. So I'll take you right to the chorus here. So once I lay that down, you can tell there's some other stuff going on, right? So I'm going to mute some of that stuff to show you, like, there's some extra guitar stuff going on that I built around the vocal. So that's what it would sound like, just really basic. Right, so really basic. There's not a lot going on as far as fill, right? It still sounds pretty empty, but since the vocals are down, now I can all of a sudden build out around it without getting in the way of the vocals, right? Because I have the final vocals down. So now the vocal tracks in this tune is this tune's a little bit different because it's actually two singers. There's two singers in the tune. They take turns. There's the first verse and the second. Or so the first verse and the first chorus are one singer, second verse, second chorus are a second singer, and then the bridge and the last chorus, they sing together. So it's a little bit different in the way that I would structure the vocals, but it's pretty close to the same thing. I leave the harmonies for the end. They harmonize over each other. That's about the only thing that would change. I would probably add in harmonies earlier in if it was just one singer, but this particular song, I want it to be like, showcase one singer with one voice, then showcase one singer with one voice that's different, then showcase them together, right? So A, B, and then A, B together, basically. So once I got that down, then I can start adding in some tasty stuff around the vocal lines, right? So I added in just some extra chords in the guitars just to make the choruses pop a little bit, to make them a little bit bigger. And then I added in some extra kind of like leady kind of plucks for the guitar to fill it out a little bit more. So I added that in. Just kind of adds this movement, right? And the steady, it's not quite a pad. It's not just like one note all the way through, but it's the same kind of notes. So it's adding a little bit of that pad element to it, right? So that was a cool thing to add in. The other thing that I added in that's kind of more pad-like in this tune is organ. I thought it really called for an organ sound, so I added that in. I'll show you what that sounds like. So this one, I like to play around with the Leslie, the spinning sound, spinning speaker basically. I like to mess around with the speed of that. I liked it to kind of like speed up and then slow down to add this little bit of flow throughout the chorus. And it just adds a little bit, you know, adds a little bit more fullness to the chorus and supports the vocal, right? It doesn't get in the way of the vocal, it supports the vocal. That's why tracking the vocals before you add any of this extra stuff is so important. At least that's the way I view it anyways. And a cool little transition piece that I used here to go into the chorus, I used a guitar swell, a backwards guitar swell. So I just hit a chord, I picked the right chord, and then I reversed it and then faded it up into the chorus. So that's what this, I'll solo it here for you. It just kind of adds this like anticipation of the chorus, so when the chorus drops, it hits harder, right? Give up to the bitter end. All I see is a champion. All I see is a fight. Yeah, so that kind of adds just, you know, it smooths out that transition between verse and chorus, which transitions between parts are really, really important in the songs. Like, if something, you can't fumble your way into a chorus, right? That doesn't work. It's all the transitions have to be smooth, and the more impactful that you can make something is usually the better, right? Either you take something away and then you bring it back, or it can be the reverse. It can be you have this big air, you know, maybe it's the second chorus going into a bridge or something like that. Maybe the bridge is quiet as opposed to the chorus being loud. Like, those transitions really, really matter, right? So adding elements around that and smoothing out those transitions is really, really important. So, like in this tune, the chorus ends and then it goes into the bridge, which, where is it? I see all I see, all I see, all I see, all I see is a champion. So it starts slowing down a little bit, just get the vibe starts changing, right? So a little more open, slower, so we changed the tempo. We're not changing the tempo, but we changed it to halftime, basically, with the drums. And it just kind of, you know, we made sure that transition flowed well so that we were able to bring down the chorus into the bridge. And then building it back up, where is it? You know, add things fill in. So that's another trick, little thing I like to do too, is bringing back in the last chorus, having a bit of like this, a little bit of a gap, and then bringing it down, like bringing the chorus down, right? So in this case, we did a little bit of a stop, and the vocal melody continued, and then the chorus came back in, which kind of makes the last chorus impactful, right? Let me bring back those extra elements as well, right? Bring back the organ, bring back the extra little guitars and stuff like that. So the bridge is a little more empty, and then the chorus comes back, and it's the last chorus. So now I actually have a vocal harmony as well. So the harmonies come in, and all the other stuff is there. So, you know, the last chorus is now the biggest chorus, which that's kind of always the way you want it. You know, you always want, you know, every chorus should be a little bit, it should all build, you know, the first chorus should probably be the most empty, then the second chorus should have, you know, a little bit more added onto it, and the last chorus should have the most stuff going on, so that it always keeps things fresh, right? Always keeps things interesting. So with this too, we had a guitar lead that came in to add a little bit. Oops. Just to add another little element, right? In between the vocal, again, right? Something that complements, right? So I brought in this lead line for the guitar that kind of complemented the vocal. After you've heard the same chorus and post-chorus, that's the third time you've heard it, right? So adding all these extra elements into it really make it, they make it all more interesting. So the song it builds as a whole song, right? So let's see, did I forget anything else? Some percussion stuff, that's a good way of making the song kind of move along too, like especially in the chorus, adding, you can, in this tune I think I used tambourine and some shaker. So just in the choruses, just basic 16th notes. So just to add a little bit of a drive. It's subtle, but it adds that extra drive, right? And then in the post-chorus, it's got a little bit of this Latin feel, so I wanted a shaker to kind of accentuate that, that Latin kind of groove. So yeah, that's most of the elements in this tune. So this was for the most part, a pretty basic tune. Not a ton of stuff going on, which is cool. I like simple songs, so it was easy to kind of structure and make it sound exciting. So yeah, that's basically the way it works from start to finish, building all these elements. Drums, bass, rhythm stuff first, then you do your vocals, then you add in all the stuff around it, basically, to fill it all out. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good understanding of how I structure my songs when I'm working with artists. If you guys want to chat at all, hit me up on Instagram and Facebook. I'm always open to talk and just discuss music and discuss recording, everything like that. So, all right, guys, take care.